Howdy. Today, first of all, tell us what you just played and why you chose that song.
Oh, thank you, Paige. Yeah, we were talking a little bit. It's the weekend of our showcase this year, March 3rd and 4th. March 3rd will be the 100th birthday celebration for Doc Watson. And so a lot of people all over the state are playing some of Doc's music, and we'll be playing a little bit of that too. And just say happy birthday, Doc Watson. Yeah.
Awesome.
And that was the Black Mountain Rag.
And you'll be doing that at the 25th Annual Caldwell Traditional Musicians Showcase. I have to take my time to make sure I get all those words right.
Right, yes we will. And the show this year is called Heroes and Friends. And this is, of course, Bob and Ron Shuffler and myself, Strictly Clean and Decent. This is our 25th year of hosting the showcase. And this will be we're going to turn the showcase over to the next generation. I read one time that 25 years was a generation. Mm-hmm. And so after this year, Kay and Ron and I are going to be turning the showcase over to Andrew Massey. And he's going to bring up the next generation of Caldwell County pickers, and he's going to feature those folks on the show. But Heroes and Friends, so since we're sort of wrapping up our tenure as the organizers of the show, I wanted to bring in some of my lifelong picking buddies. And so I'm bringing in, of course, Ron Shuffler. Kay and I have been playing music with Ron roughly since 1981, and officially since 1991. We've been playing on stage with Ron Shuffler, and he's been a great influence on our music. Tall Paul and Kristie Bobal. Tall Paul Bobal, who now lives in Nashville, Tennessee. He and I met in college at Appalachian State. He started coming to Caldwell County and playing music with Caldwell County musicians in 1975. And so he's got a lot of friends here in town. They'll be looking forward to hearing Tall Paul. Tall Paul's wife, Kristie, beautiful singer. They do a wonderful duet. They've got a brand new recording out. It's out on social media and all the platforms. Now when you make a record, you don't make these things anymore. You make these CDs, but you basically give them away. And you have it on all the platforms, right, K-Bob?
That's right.
So on all the platforms, you can find Whiskey and Wine. This is Tall Paul and Kristie's latest recording effort, and they'll be on the showcase. Tall Paul, what do you want to say about Tall Paul, K-Bob? You've known him a week or two.
A week or two. Tall Paul and Kristie have played music in Caldwell County about as much as anybody. I think one of the last times was at this past Happy Valley Fiddlers Convention. They had played in Tennessee the night before, and they slipped over on Sunday afternoon. And while they didn't play on the stage, they came to hear the Kruger brothers and were as amazed as everybody else was, and always is. And then they came down to the campsite, and in the rain, we had a mighty jam session. So those people who were lucky enough to be there were lucky enough, I'll tell you. Yeah. They're lovely people, and we've traveled with them. They're very easy to travel with, and we've been to Ireland with them several times, and we're always happy when they come over to visit.
Always good to have people back to Caldwell County.
It is, and there's just such joy in their music, and Paul really feels at home here, and Kristie does too. They've made many friends over the years, so that's going to be great. Another fellow that we're bringing from Nashville, Tennessee, this showcase is a gentleman named Milan Miller. And Kay and I first met Milan, I think it was Christmas of 1998 that Milan first came to our home, and we like to think we have an open house for music, and I suppose we do because a lot of people have been there and played, but that's how we met Milan. He was in a band with a friend of ours named Mark Bumgarner, who grew up here in Lenoir, and Mark's a great singer-songwriter, and so he had teamed up with Milan in Nashville, actually. And while they were home for Christmas, they both came to see Kay and me, came to a big jam over there. We got to know who Milan was. And Milan, at that time, had already started working diligently in the songwriting business. And Milan was trying to learn about publishing. He was trying to learn about how to promote his music. And so now here we are, almost 25 years later, and Milan has he's received an International Bluegrass Music Award for Bluegrass Songwriter of the Year. And Milan's got a lot of music out, but his latest one is called Between Rhythm and Rhyme. And this is a really cool CD that you can find on all streaming platforms, Milan Miller. And Milan has been to Ireland with us before, or we've been with him, however you want to look at it. We've all been to Ireland together. And so Milan was inspired to write a song called Walking Home from Wexford. And he has the great Tim O'Brien singing with him on this. All you musicians out there know who Tim O'Brien is. And most recently, he's had 3 songs off of this particular CD in the top 10 on the Bluegrass chart on Sirius Radio. The first one he had on the chart was called Cali Calling, and it's one of those great bluegrass murder songs. The next one he had on the chart that was really cool was a song called Trout Don't Live in Ugly Places, and it's a fishing song, and I've never heard a fishing song on the bluegrass chart before. The only other song that had a waterfall in it was a murder ballad. But then the most recent one Milan's had on the bluegrass chart is one called Distractions, and he's talking about how you go through your day and there are things that come up that occupy your time, and that's how you make it through. But think the world of Milan Miller. Can't say enough good things about him. He's been to Caldwell County quite a few times. He likes to come over for the songwriter nights, of course, since that's his trade. And Milan does songwriting workshops, and he basically just promotes original music and encourages people. He's one of my biggest encouragers. And so I'm going to have him on the show. That's going to be fun. What would you say about Milan there, K-Bob?
We love Milan. We love Milan, and he really has encouraged Patrick and many other songwriters too. And he will be coming back to these parts. Patrick will be doing a duet concert with him at the Jones House in Boone in May. And they'll be doing some work in Statesville. And he's just a lovely man. And he is very shy and unassuming. And it's always a treat to see him on stage because he's like a different person. You know, you have to be. And
you have to be, yes.
Many performers are that way. But knowing him personally, it's a joy to see him play. His songs have been recorded by Lonesome River Band and help me.
Third time out. Terry Balcom and the Dukes of Drive.
Yeah.
Balsam Range.
Balsam Range in particular.
Yeah.
He was nominated for Song of the Year for songs that Balsam Range had by the International Bluegrass Music Association that Balsam Range has recorded. So Milan, we're very happy to have him.
Yeah, we're glad to have
board.
him.
This is actually his second time on the showcase. In 2000, he was part of a band with Mark Bumgarner, who Patrick had mentioned.
Right.
So he will. This will.
Yeah,
be
he's making a return, and the show is Heroes and Friends, and some of these people are both. You know, like Milan and Paul and Kristie, they're our heroes, and Ron Shuffler, of course, they're our heroes and our friends. But we've also got some young, I call them some young fellas here in town. But there's John Boy and Lefty. They've got an amazing duet. Mostly it's Jonathan Dahl and Kent Spears. And most of the time when you see these guys, they'll be playing, John Boy will be on guitar and Lefty will be on harmonica. And they're way into American roots music. And that's where that word traditional comes into play. These guys are students of the old stuff, and they play it with such a passion and such a dedication. That's what caught my ear when I first started hearing them play. And now, over the past couple of years, it's evolved into friendships, and we jam together and we exchange musical ideas. And so I asked John Boy and Lefty to be on the show, and they decided they wanted to do it with a full band, which they often do play with a full band. So the full band on the show is going to be John Boy and Lefty, joined by Coty Robinett. Coty's a jewel. I don't know that a lot of people in Caldwell County have met him yet. And John Boy felt strongly that people in this county needed to hear Coty, and I feel the same way. So Coty's going to be part of the band that night. Also on drums is going to be one of our oldest and dearest friends in Caldwell County, Mr. Wes McCall. And Wes came to Caldwell County a long time ago as part of the Singing Wine Bargers. For all those people who follow gospel music in Caldwell County, you know the Singing Wine Bargers, and that's what brought Wesley to Caldwell County. And so I met him 100 years ago, and he played in a band with us called Long Time Gone, 4-piece country band up until 1993. And then Wes has been doing various things. He's a great songwriter in his own right, great performer. but he'll be on drums with the John Boy and Lefty show there. And then on bass will be Andrew Massey. And I mentioned Andrew earlier that we're turning the showcase over to Andrew, and mainly because we see him networking. And in the music business, you have to do that. I was advised long ago to get to know everybody I could know that was doing the same thing I was doing. And also, you don't have to do this, but Andrew promotes himself and everybody else. He takes a genuine interest in other people's projects, and he takes a genuine interest in promoting live music in our area. So I think he's the man for the job. And what would you say about it, all of that, K-Bob?
Well, as Patrick said, he's not just about promoting himself. And one of the most interesting things that he's done lately that incorporated many, many musicians was there was one of the greatest songwriters, American songwriters of this generation was John Prine, and his death of COVID was what brought COVID home to me. He died on April 8th in 2020, and there were all sorts of tributes as could be done in COVID, but because we couldn't gather, those were limited. So one of the things that Andrew did last year was to just put the word out to anybody who wanted to provide to him themselves, a recording of themselves doing a John Prine song, that he would gather it and he put it on he created a YouTube channel just for that production. So we have a whole lot of Caldwell and I think a few Catawba Valley musicians who were doing John Prine songs. And it wasn't just about him, he just was the guy to do it. And I loved that project. And he also has his own recordings available on all streaming platforms.
He does.
And a new band.
And Andrew works with the Hub Center in Hudson. Yeah. He works with the Western Carolina Sculpture Center out in Patterson.
Sculpture Center,
He coordinates events for those folks. He's been involved. He's a fellow that will go out and rent a venue and bring in musicians and promote his own shows. Just because he feels the music is that important. So we're definitely glad to have him.
I was trying to say, this all sounds like some people I've met once.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I mean, he sounds like a good person to be handing this over to.
Yeah,
we really think so.
Yeah, we're so pleased. He was the first person who came to mind, and when we asked him, he graciously accepted. And so that's what the show's going to be this year. Heroes and Friends. Of course, Kay and Ron and I will hit strong on acoustic music. Milan's set will be his original music, and we'll join Milan on a tune or two. Kay and Ron and I will join Milan on a tune or two. John Boy and Lefty, like I said, they're really into roots music, but they've also got great original tunes. So their set will be some roots music, some originals. Then Tall Paul and Kristie. Tall Paul is more, even though he talks about a lot of traditional music in his bio, when you hear the show is pop and rock influenced, and their songwriting is as well. But they've got great original music, he and Kristie. It's a wonderful, they travel all over the world playing music, and they're seasoned professionals. I know folks are going to love them. And then, of course, we always have a grand finale. We get everybody back on stage, and I refuse to rehearse this grand finale. Some of the people say, well, when did you get together and rehearse that? And I said, well, we didn't. And then that goes back to traditional. We all came from the same place, so we know how to go through the buffet line. We'll pick out what we want. And, mercifully, all of the finales have been pretty cool, actually. And I know this one's going to be cool, too, so we're looking forward to that. And have you got anything else you'd like to say about this year's show, K-Bob, before I double back and give thanks to a lot of folks?
No, it's time to double back.
Time to double back?
Time to double back.
Paige, starting right here with you and Eric Stafford and Caldwell Television. We've been doing this 25 years, and when we started this 25 years ago, we were working with Bill Kincaid and David Hill, and later on Luann Kincaid. And we are so thankful not only to Caldwell TV, but to you folks who watch the Public Information Channel here. We've found this to be just a great platform for us to let folks know what's going on. And so hopefully on today's program, you've figured out that this is our 25th annual show. You also know that the show's going to continue under the direction of Andrew Massey. And so that's a cool thing that happens there. We've got these great posters. Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute sponsors this show, which they've done for 25 years. And in their graphics department, they have Ron Wilson.
He does an amazing job.
Doesn't he?
I mean, this is...
Yes.
Let me be my nerd. This is the nerd side. This is amazing.
Yeah.
The layout, everything about this.
Everything that Ron has ever done for our showcase has been top notch, and we so much appreciate his work.
And I should say that there have been times where we have gone to him and it's like, I forgot to give you to give you every piece of information. Can you have it tomorrow? And he'd say, not a problem. He's the easiest person to ever work with and covers up some of my boo-boobs.
Well, while we're on Caldwell Community College, we'll go back to the Broyhill Civic Center, and once again, we'll thank Mr. David Briggs. This entire series was David's idea. We did the first one in 1998, and honestly, when we did the first one, we thought it was going to be the only one. And we're as surprised as everybody to see this show continue for 25 years, and we hope it goes another 100 more years. But special thanks to David Briggs. The champion of this show for me personally, and the person we've worked with the most, who's put in the most hours while on this show, is Jeff Bentley. So we'd like to say a special thank you to Jeff Bentley at the J.E. Broyhill Civic Center. He's just been a mainstay. He always makes us look and sound good, and without his help, this show could not have existed without him. So thank you to Jeff. The box office folks, I don't have names for all the box office folks, and I apologize about that. But we've had a lot of good help over there in the box office, and also Cheryl Bolt, and I don't have her current married name. Cheryl, I love you. Cheryl's been a big help as far as paperwork and making sure we don't get sued, and we appreciate that. Early on, Paige, we did from 2001 until 2010, we did a series of recordings. I had this brainstorm that I would, the format of the show used to be that we would make a recording of the show as the rehearsal, and then on the night of the show, we would have it for sale. And so that involved making a CD beforehand. All the artists would come into our studio. Kay, Ron, and I would work with those people. There were about 120 different musicians who took part in those 10 CDs. And so a big thank you to all those folks. And during those years, the Caldwell Arts Council was providing grassroots grants to Kay, who was doing the writing of the grants. So we were getting grants from the Caldwell Arts Council to sponsor the manufacturing of those CDs. And like I say, there were 10 of those. We placed those in all of the public school libraries. They're in our library. And the people who helped really with that, besides the artist and Strictly Clean and Decent, were Daryl Johnson from Hudson, North Carolina. Daryl's a friend of mine who is he's just a musical genius who can operate any kind of music equipment and repair any kind of music equipment. But one of his hobbies is recording. So Daryl taught us a lot about recording techniques. He mastered our recordings for us, made them sound great. And then we used David Kortner Photography. David, for years, was like the official photographer for the showcase, and he also helped with graphic layout of our CD covers on every single one. So we owe those folks a huge debt. Anything you want to add about David Kortner there, K-Bob?
Once again, he's just the easiest guy to work with, and does amazing stuff at davidkortner.com. Some of his photographs of the night sky and the sun. Who can photograph the sun? Well, he does, you know. And he has had many gallery exhibits in Caldwell County and surrounding counties. He came over from Tennessee. We're happy that he chose Western North Carolina to settle in.
Definitely.
Yes, and then along the way, the Foothills Radio Group has been very supportive of live local musicians, and we've had a brilliant relationship with Foothills Radio over there. We appreciate everything they've done. The Lenore News Topic has carried articles publicizing our events. We appreciate the Lenore News Topic. And there's a gentleman named Michael Barrick, and I met him through my middle school teaching career. His daughter Lindsay, just one of the best people you could ever meet in the whole wide world. And Lindsay at a time was one of the box office people at the Civic Center, and helped with marketing of the showcase as well. But through his daughter, I met Michael, and Michael's a great writer. And he has a series of articles this year, which he does every year. He's written articles for almost every musician showcase we've done. He writes with the Appalachian Chronicle, which you can find online. And he's done I think the 4th article has come out. He's doing 5 or 6 articles on Heroes and Friends. And they're all beautiful, beautiful articles. So we especially thank Michael Barrick for the work he's done. And I think he will continue to do, because I mentioned to you that Andrew's a networking man. And so Andrew has a very close relationship with Michael Barrick. Andrew also has a close working relationship with Jeff Bentley. And so he and Jeff used to work together at the Civic Center. And so when you promote music and when you get out and start playing for people, when you're playing in public, you don't just deal with musicians, you have to deal with other folks to help get the word out, and people who will give you support. We want to thank our great MC, Nancy Posey. Nancy was living in Caldwell County when she started hosting emceeing the show. She lived here in Caldwell County. She's recently moved back to Nashville, but she makes a trip once a year to come and host our show, and she's going to be doing that again this year. And Paige, the other thing that's, you know, one of our long-term goals, when we started doing this, a lot of my friends looked at me first and said, "You're crazy. Why are you doing that? You know, what's the purpose of this?" And I said, well, I think that one of the natural resources we have in Caldwell County are the musicians and the live music. I think it's a natural resource. I think it's something we can be proud of. And I just wanted to make people aware that it was here, you know, there was no need to change it. It had been here before I was born. And so it wasn't anything that we didn't really need to improve upon the musicians, and we still don't, because we still got world-class musicians playing every venue in Caldwell County. Everywhere that you go in Caldwell County to hear live music, you're mostly hearing local folks play. Then when you go to Asheville, you're hearing Caldwell County people. When you go to Charlotte, you're hearing Caldwell County people. And especially when you go to Catawba County, when you cross the river and go to Hickory, guess who's playing there?
And Watauga, the other direction too.
Watauga, Burke, Wilkes County. Yeah. There's a camaraderie among musicians in Western North Carolina, and that enables us to do these kinds of things. You know, we travel back and forth and play music, and of course, like we're having our friends from Nashville come in here, you know, folks come in and out of Caldwell County. There's been a movement, you know, there are a lot of folks in Caldwell County, breweries and wineries and markets who are promoting tourism, and they want people to come to Caldwell County. Well, we've had people coming to Caldwell County way over 50 years to collaborate with musicians. I first became aware of that in 1975 through a friend of mine named Clarence H. Green, who ran a pawn shop in Hudson. On Saturday morning, I would go to Clarence's pawn shop. There'd be people from Nashville, Tennessee come through there. There'd be people from Charlotte come through there. One time, this is one of my favorite memories, and Kay, this is before I met you. One of my favorite memories was I was in Clarence's pawn shop on Saturday morning, and my friend from Gamewell, Jim Adkins, he said, he called me Big Pat. He said, "Big Pat," he said, "play that Mountain Laurel." And there had been a beautiful song on bluegrass radio called Mountain Laurel. And it was a popular song. It had been put out by Dave and Don Parmley, who were the Bluegrass Cardinals. And I'd never seen the Bluegrass Cardinals in person because they were from California. So here I am, I'm in this song, I'm playing Mountain Laurel, and halfway through Mountain Laurel, it changes keys and there's a big banjo break that takes off wide open. So I change keys and take off wide open. And as I'm about halfway through this banjo solo that I think I'm doing a pretty good job on, the fella taps me on the shoulder. I turn around, and right there in Hudson, North Carolina, are the Bluegrass Cardinals standing behind me in Clarence's store. And that was one of those small world things, you know. And so that's the day I met David and Don Parmley at Clarence Green's pawn shop while playing their hit song, stealing their music.
You were set up, I believe.
I was set up, K-Bob, but those are
your little 17-year-old self there.
Those are the kinds of things that used to happen in Caldwell County and still do. You would be amazed at the number of musicians who come through this part of the country seeking out good players, and then they've done it for a long time. They come here trying to hire people. Sometimes they come here to hire other musicians, and sometimes they just come here out of friendship. One of the great bluegrass fiddlers of all time, a musician named Vassar Clements. Years ago, we had a Strictly Clean and Decent show in Hickory with Ron Shuffler, Reggie Harris, and myself, and that's where Reggie and Vassar, they met on that day, and they just became close friends. And so Vassar would travel here. He wouldn't do a show. He would just come to see Reggie and hang out. And then by the same token, a lot of these Carolina musicians, you know, they go visit their friends. It's a small world when you get right down to it, and a world we're glad to be part of. But that's what I was trying to make people aware of, was that it's a natural resource in Caldwell County. People come here for the music, and they return many times for the music.
Gosh, in the early 2000s, I was involved in a number of committees with the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce and the city of Lenoir, working with Main Street and trying to work on tourism and what will bring people to the county and to this city. And it always came down to that music was one of the things that, you know, and now people take that for granted because there are venues where local musicians are able to play, and there are little mini festivals and celebrations and things like the Showcase where music is always featured. We have had, in the 25 years that we've been doing this, over 250 different musicians on stage, and one of these days we're going to have to sit down and get all the programs out and actually count up so we can get a definitive number.
Oh, I've got it, Caleb. I've got it on Excel.
Do you now?
On that,
I thought he was going to give us a number, right?
I got it on that. It is 250. It's right at 250. Yep.
Right at 250. Right.
It's right at 250.
And
249.
And there are a number of people who we missed in their lifetime. For whatever reasons. And then there are still a large number of people who have never been on the Showcase.
That's where Andrew comes in.
That's where Andrew comes in because he knows
man.
those people. And he's the one to reach out to them. And it may not be exactly the same in the next 25 years, and we hope that it'll last that long.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but that's all right. The framework is there. And we're on the radar of the folks at the North Carolina Arts Council. They love what we're doing. And there are similar things that are across the state, but ours was one of the earliest ones to really put people who may not ever really perform on the stage so people can have a look at them on places other than in their basement or on the back porch. It is an oral tradition. We call this the Traditional Musician Showcase in the loosest sense of the term, because maybe not all of the music played is out of the traditional canon, but these people learned by word of mouth. through the oral tradition. They sat down from across from somebody knee to knee and learned how to play their instruments. Now that's kind of expanded with some of the younger ones to situations like the JAM program, the Junior Appalachian Musicians, that pair people who did grow up in the oral tradition in a class situation where they're dealing with young people. And we have those in all different areas, 4 or 5 different areas of the county. We're happy to see this music continue, as well as the more traditional music that's taught in the public schools with the band and choral programs. And there are even guitar programs in places like Kings Creek School, and we're just happy to see all that continue.
And I don't think people who have lived here all their life really know how blessed they are. As someone who grew up here, moved away, came back, moved away again, came back a third time, you realize there's something special here with the music, with the arts community that we have. And you guys are a big part of that, so I want to say thank you.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
Absolutely our pleasure, yeah.
Just what Kay was talking about as far as the continuation of it, it's a living tradition. And that's the thing about it. It won't always be the same.
Right.
And you have, and I'm just I'm glad to see the change. I actually embrace the change, to tell you the truth. I really do, which is one of the reasons why I feel like 25 years has been a good tenure for Kay, Ron, and me. These are the people that we knew, that we had shared a lifetime of music with, and so it's time for the next generation to do the same, which they've always done. It's always been here, and we're just so proud of that. And we do want to, once again, Kay mentioned the fact, Paige, I think there are more live music venues in Caldwell County now than there have ever been. Some of my friends talked about the time right after World War II here, when honky-tonks were still pretty big and there were a lot of places to play music. I've heard those stories, and I've heard the stories of Hog Waller. But I think right now, honestly, I think we've got more venues for live music in Caldwell County than we've ever had. And so I salute those people, because it's hard enough just to run a restaurant or just to run a brewery or a winery. It's hard enough to take care of all that kind of business, much less adding live music to the mix. And we are very fortunate here now in the county that we've got some people who support the live music as well. And also to you people who watch these programs on TV, the music programs, and especially those of you who come out to the venues and support the musicians face to face. There's nothing better than that. And the audience is a vital part of what we do. And so we'll cordially invite everybody to come out on Saturday, March 4, to the Broyhill Civic Center at 7:30 and support the live music. And I want to remind you people, okay, Bob, why don't you remind them about what Chef Corey's got going on that day?
Chef Corey.
Now I'm getting hungry.
That's right.
You're talking your language.
Chef Corey has a dinner planned, a pre-show dinner, and really it's the best way to see the show is to come at 5:30 and just have a sit-down, relaxed dinner. Often it's a buffet. I'm not quite sure if it is this time or not, but it's a chicken stew that's going to be great, and it's a 3-course meal. And that'll just be upstairs at the Civic Center. You can come early and get parked. You don't have to worry about battling the crowds to get in. And but you do have to have a reservation, and you can go find the link through the Music Center, the Broyhill Center's website. That's broyhillcenter.com. You can get tickets to the show by going through the website or by calling the box office at 828-726-2407 and talk to those good folks there. You can get tickets on the night of the show. We don't recommend it because there's always kind of a log jam there. The box office is open from 10 to 4 daily.
Monday through Friday, 10 to 4 Monday through Friday.
10 to 4 Monday through Thursday, and I think they close at noon on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on the day of the show, the box office opens 2 hours before the show, so the box office opens at 5:30 on the day of the show.
And there's no dinner with Chef Corey if you wait till the day of the show.
That's right.
You
Have
gotta
to do that in
make
advance.
Make a reservation for that.
With Chef Corey if you want the dinner.
Right, and we encourage to buy tickets in advance. The show is at 7:30, and what else do we need to say about that?
I think we're in pretty good shape. Paige, did you have any questions for us?
I think you have covered it. I'm
Well.
checking my flyer here. I think you have covered it. Just
Well.
folks need to mark your calendar for March 4th and get their tickets.
Absolutely.
Thank you both for joining us.
Sure, thank
Paige.
you.
It's always
I
a pleasure.
love having you come and play,
Yeah.
and I love when we can air the traditional musicians showcase on our channel.
Absolutely.
That's some of my favorite TV. So,
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
so we appreciate it. Now I'm just going to ask if you guys will play us out.
We'll do
We
it.
will.
This is a song written by Suzanne Clark, and Kay does a great job on it. And I hope I can remember how it goes.
That's right. I threw you a curveball in asking you to play this
It's
song
lovely, Kay.
on a different instrument.
I got it. Should I count it off or just take off?
Take off. When I was a young girl, my daddy told me a lesson he'd learned was a long time ago. He said, if you want to have someone to hold on to, you're gonna have to learn to let go. You got to sing like you don't need the money, love. Like you've never been hurt. You got to dance like nobody's watching. It's gotta come from the heart if you want it to work. Now there is just one thing I keep forgetting when everything is falling apart. In life as in love, you know you need to remember there's such a thing as trying too hard, and you got to say like you don't need the money, love. Like you've never been hurt. You got to dance like nobody's watching. It's gotta come from the heart if you want it to work. And you got to sing like you don't need the money, love. Like you've never been hurt. You got to dance, dance, dance like nobody's watching. It's gotta come